Samsung built the perfect phone. Then it exploded. There was a moment when Samsung looked like it had built the perfect phone. Not just a great phone for its time, the perfect one. It looked futuristic, felt premium, had features people actually wanted, and gave off that rare feeling that the future had arrived early. But then, almost overnight, that dream turned into one of the biggest disasters in smartphone history. And that's what makes this phone unforgettable. Because the Galaxy Note 7 was not just another Samsung release. It was a masterpiece. Right before it became a warning. Welcome back, this is Pryce, where we help you save money, buy smarter tech, and reduce unnecessary electronic waste by appreciating devices that actually moved the industry forward. And today, we're going back to one of the most important Samsung phones ever made. Not because it sold forever, not because it was safe, but because for one brief moment, it felt like Samsung had created the ultimate Android phone. And that's what made the fall so brutal. Back in 2016, the Note lineup meant power. If you bought a Note, you were not buying the basic version of anything. You were buying the big screen, the top specs, the extra features, the S Pen, the status, the ambition. And when the Galaxy Note 7 arrived, Samsung pushed that identity even further. This phone looked stunning. Curved display, slim body, premium metal and glass design, water resistance, wireless charging, iris scanner, and one of the best screens Samsung had ever put on a phone. It felt complete, and that was the magic of the Note 7. It wasn't just powerful on paper, it felt like one of those rare phones where everything came together at once. Samsung was not playing catch up here, Samsung was leading. For a lot of people, this was the Android phone to beat. It looked more exciting than almost everything else on the market. It felt more advanced, more expensive, more ambitious. This was the kind of phone that made people stop and stare. But here's where the story changes, because the same phone that looked like a masterpiece started showing signs of a serious problem. Reports began to appear about batteries overheating. Then more reports came in. Then the photos started spreading online. Burned units, damaged devices, smoke, fire. And just like that, the most impressive Samsung phone of that era became the phone everyone was suddenly afraid to trust. That is how fast a masterpiece can collapse. Samsung first issued a recall trying to contain the damage. Then replacement units also started raising concerns. And that's when the crisis became much bigger than a bad launch. This was no longer about one flawed batch. This became a global reputational disaster. Airlines warned passengers, stores pulled inventory. The Note 7 became one of the most infamous smartphones ever released. Not because it was boring, but because it failed in the most dramatic way possible. And honestly, that's what still makes this story so wild. Because under all that chaos, the Note 7 was actually a brilliant device. That's the part people sometimes forget. This was not a bad phone that failed. This was an amazing phone that failed. And in some ways, that makes the story even more painful. I remember that era clearly because Samsung was building phones that felt bold, confident, and exciting. The Note 7 felt like the kind of device that was going to define the premium Android experience for years. Instead, it became the moment Samsung had to stop, rebuild trust, and prove it could recover. And to Samsung's credit, it did recover. That failure forced the company to rethink battery testing, quality control, and risk management in a much more serious way. And when you look at what came after, from later Note devices to the Ultra series, you can see the lessons. The company came back stronger, but the scar never fully disappeared. The Note 7 became more than a failed flagship. It became a turning point, a phone that showed just how dangerous it is when innovation moves faster than control. So was the Galaxy Note 7 a disaster? Yes. But was it also one of the most important Samsung phones ever made? Absolutely. Because for a brief moment, Samsung built something that felt nearly perfect. And when it fell apart, the entire industry paid attention. That kind of impact does not happen with ordinary phones. If you want more videos about iconic smartphones that shaped the market, check the link below for the best tech deals I find, subscribe, and let me know which Samsung phone marked an era for you. And as always, peace, health, and well-being in your home.